Welcome back to Jack's Coffee Break. Today is an exciting day. We finally had another DLC announcement. Now, I did skip out on the last one because, quite frankly, there wasn't really much to talk about. It was an animal pack, so as soon as you saw the animals, you basically knew the contents of the pack. There wasn't really anything to speculate or to sift over or anything like that, and quite frankly, that's what I prefer to do in one of these videos. However, we're getting another scenery pack, which is what, frankly, I care more about. I like building for animals, and I like building habitats, but at the end of the day, I tend to view Planet Zoo more as a build engine with animals running around in it than I do a zoo builder where I can build anything I want. So, with that note, we have Planet Zoo's Oceania pack. And I will note, quite surprisingly, that Leaf, who I happen to rather like, he's probably my favorite Planet Zoo YouTuber, got this spot on. He doesn't always, but this time, I mean, he might as well have just read the patch notes. It was fantastic. So, good on him. Let's go ahead and introduce our new animals. We are going to have the kiwi, which, when I was in Australia, I had the pleasure of seeing these guys live. I was either in Australia or New Zealand. I think I was in New Zealand. And I actually intend on recreating that habitat with the kiwi once I have the ability to. Next we have the Tasmanian devil. I know that he's been a fan favorite for a while. I'm sure that there is a way to see the forums and figure out what animals people are voting for the most. However, I haven't figured out how to do that, and so mostly I gain it through other people's YouTube videos. And the Tasmanian devil has definitely been on the top of a lot of people's list. This is another one that I had the pleasure of seeing live, this one definitely in Australia. It was interesting to note that they never stopped moving. They were just constantly running all the time, and I'm not sure if that was an issue with their habitat or if that's just in their nature. I'm not particularly sure. Next we have the little penguin, or the little blue penguin, I believe. Now, I'm not sure that we've gotten any pictures of him, but we will, of course, go through the video after this. I don't know how I feel about getting yet a third penguin into the game. I feel like the two that we had was kind of enough, but the little blue penguin, quite frankly, is one of the most adorable penguins out there, so I'm kind of okay with this. Next we have the quokka. An animal that, frankly, I didn't expect to ever see in Planet Zoo, but I suspect they're probably adding it more due to its internet fame than because it is a commonly kept animal in zoos. I've heard that they're fairly rare. I don't have a lot of information to back that up. But definitely, over the last few years, they've gained a reputation, and certainly, when we build for the quokka eventually, I will be focusing on that reputation, and talking about why they've gained that, and whether or not it's true, and what actually does exist about it. Next, for our enclosure animal, we're going to be going back to the large enclosures, thankfully, and we will be getting the spectacled flying fox. Now, I know that there is a lot of controversy with the fact that they've added the perfect enclosure for birds, and they're insisting on not giving us birds. However, to combat this, I will say that they are giving us a kiwi, which is, of course, one of the most famous and adorable flightless birds out there. So at this point, we do actually have a roster of ground birds, and I think that this is probably the direction they intend to keep going in. They'd rather have ground birds that they don't have to program, and then have small animals where if the programming messes up a little bit, well, you're not watching now, are you? I think that that's probably the direction they're going to keep going in. Now, if I had to speculate as to why they don't want to add in flighted birds into these enclosures, I suspect it has something to do with limitations in pathing. But the other thing is, I suspect that on many levels it has a lot to do with the controversy around how birds are kept in zoos. Now, you probably know, if you've kept any birds or if you've looked into the subject at all, that in order to keep them from flying around their enclosure and potentially damaging themselves and potentially dying, frankly, zookeepers must snip their wings, which means that they cut into the skin of the wing, and this prevents the bird from being able to properly gain lift with that surface. So they're able to flap their wings all they want, but they're not going to get any kind of takeoff. Now, is this cruel? That's an age-old debate. You know, is a bird in a cage a symbol of cruelty? One can argue absolutely yes, and others can argue absolutely not. You're taking an animal out of a situation where it surely would have died, and putting it in a situation where it will surely die, but much, much, much later. So it depends on how you want to take that angle. Now, I do have zoom features. We are going to go ahead and zoom into this particular image real quick. Unfortunately, I can't get a very good high-res one, so we're just going to have to deal with this. Now, definitely we're going to be getting more foliage, and it appears to be that most of what we're focusing on this time are palms. These, if I had to speculate, look new. This palm tree over here, I know that we don't have anything fluffy like this in the game, and I suspect that this little bit is either a piece of grass or it's a new plant. Next we have these flowers in the foreground. These are absolutely something. I don't think I've seen this shade of purple in the grasses in game, so I'm going to assume that this is probably a new grass. We have some dried out leaves over here. So I'm assuming that this is part of these palms. We probably have the short, we probably have the tall and thick, and we probably have a medium right here. And it would not surprise me to learn that these two are probably the same thing. We may be getting both of these in dried out versions, except that if we look at this guy over here, go away, I don't need you anymore. We can see that there are dried leaves here towards the top, so I suspect that this is part of the plant. This palm back here, I believe that this is one of the coconut palms that we already have in game. Otherwise, besides featuring the kiwi, there doesn't seem to be a lot of new things here. This over here is London fog grass, and I suspect that all of this through here is a mixture of the grasses that we already have in game, except for these little purple flowers, which either we do have in the game or we don't, and we're getting yet another small flowering plant. So, next, we are going to be getting here we go, Nikau Palm and the Radiant Silver Fern. So I suspect that this is probably the Nikau Palm, and this could be the Silver Fern. This isn't the Silver Fern, I recognize that one. So we'll see what we end up getting. Also worth noting in this section, so we are getting Polynesian-inspired decorating pieces. So we will have tiki statues, straw huts, and colorful leis, which we will get in the next picture. Celebrating the captivating culture of the region, you can even admire the diversity of the animals with the additions of impressive volcanic rock and glow-in-the-dark faux lava. Now, originally I wasn't sure if I was completely sold on this pack, and then I saw that we are getting brand new rock pieces, and we're getting glow-in-the-dark faux lava, and I said, oh, never mind, this is already a need to have. Currently, the only way to achieve volcanic rock is to take the faux pieces that are in the aquatic pack and change them to black and call it good. But quite frankly, I find that set limiting. I'm wondering if what we're going to end up getting is actually a set of faux rock, or if this is going to be flexi-color and its default spot is just black, or if we are truly getting black rock. We're getting a full set of black rocks. I will say, we're gonna go ahead and come down to one of the pictures here. Yes. So, in this picture right here, you can see all of the different new rock pieces that we're going to get, and I will say that none of them look quite like any of the base game pieces that I can recognize immediately. This one a bit. This looks like one of our base game rocks. Now, it could just be that I'm not recognizing them from a top view. It could be that they're at different rotations. It could be that this is one of those, like, sideline pieces. So we're getting the original set in black. I personally would prefer that we got an original set in flexi color and in that faux rock texturing, because then I could have a full set of faux rock textures and I could build entire enclosures that way instead of having to mix and match, which is currently what we have to do. And I can get my coloration close to spot on, but there's so much depth in those original textures that it's hard to get it correct, if that makes sense. So hopefully with the addition of this brand new rock, we'll be able to do all kinds of crazy stuff. The addition of lava flows. Originally, I wasn't sure if I wanted there to be lava flows. It would be nice to have water that actually flows downhill and has a volume to it. So it's entirely possible that we might be able to swap between one color of lava and another color of lava. If that's the case, then we can almost, maybe, sort of pull off the look of water flowing downhill that doesn't require a whole bunch of those little effect things. Because right now, it's a whole song and dance to get it to work. On the other hand, it might just be lava. It might have nothing else going for it, it might just be red lava. And even in that case, I will probably end up using it, if only to rebuild something like Mordor. I don't necessarily know that that would be worthwhile for an entire zoo, but it would certainly be fun for one of the many challenges I like to do. Speaking of, brief announcement, there is a challenge going down on Simply Savannah's Discord channel. If you track down Simply Savannah through Google, YouTube, however, Simply Savannah, you can go and join the contest if you have the game. Please join the contest, because so far, in the last 2 competitions that I've been in, we've had 6 people and 4 people respectively join, and I beg of you, I need competition. Please, please. I'm happy to sit at 5th. That's fine. But my goodness, there's got to be more people. I beg of you. Join, please. There's nothing stopping you. You have until the 26th of October. You have time, I promise. Anyway, back at on the subject at hand. So here we get an aerial view. This is probably going to be our challenge map. That's what I suspect. A challenge map is, a bit incorrect. It's actually going to be a career scenario, thank goodness. And we're going to be having the return of Emma Goodwin, Bernie Goodwin's daughter. It was nice to have a new character for a little while, but I have to admit I'm a little bit tired of dealing with a capital I influencer. So this will be a nice return to pace, I think. I've rather missed Emma, and quite frankly I miss Bernie as well, but it's rather understandable that, you know, he'd probably want to enjoy his retirement in Mexico. So this will be the new career scenario. It looks like it's just straight up a Polynesian village that we're going to throw animals into. And I have no complaints about that, that's fine. What most interested me about this picture is this boat. More the shapes that they've managed to achieve quite smoothly. This is almost assuredly some kind of plaster. In fact, I'd say that probably all of this is plaster except for these pieces up here. This is probably one of the woods that we already have in game. I doubt that there's really anything new that we can extract from this object, except for the fact that it's probably going to be a blueprint, and if it's not, you can make it into one. Next, we see that we have what looks to be some kind of dock down here. I'll see if I can focus on it a little bit. Perhaps my editor can zoom in, so that way we can get a little bit more quality out of this, but quite frankly, I don't think that we can pull a lot of good data out of this. It's just going to be a little bit fuzzy. I'd like a full rendering, but we don't have that. So it looks like we're going to get some more dried wood plank. That'll be interesting. These boats are the East Asian boats. I'm not concerned about those. These curved logs, I don't believe we have anything like that in game. Those are probably new. Of course, what is really meant to catch the eye are all of these thatch roofs. Now, I will say that I have no hope in my heart whatsoever that these are going to be flexi-color. I know that everybody wants there to be flexi-color thatch roofs, and I agree that that would be wonderful, so that way we could pick between shades of yellow and green and, you know, do our own thing with it. Or if you decide that you want to have a bright pink Barbie Polynesian world, that you could theoretically have that freedom. I think that that would be very nice, but I think what's more important here is probably the shapes of the thatch, rather than the flexi color on them. We won't know, of course, until when we actually get this pack, which I believe should be coming, yes, the 19th of September. So as I record this on 9/12, we only have a few days to wait, thankfully. Of course, by the time that you see this, it'll be even shorter than that, because that's how time works in this dimension. So we have all of our different foliage, we have all of our different palms. These faces through here are very interesting. I suspect that we will probably be following along with the Malaysian pack, and that the only things that are going to be on the grid system are probably some new wooden fronts, which we may get better quality pictures of when we go through the trailer. We might be getting this new, I believe this is a new roof set, unless they're using the Australian, which it doesn't quite look like the Australian corrugated metal, so I suspect that's probably new. Next, let's go ahead and briefly talk about the free update, because there's really not a whole lot to talk about with it. We have new viewing domes, which, that's all I needed. thank you. We can wrap this up now. That's all I wanted, really, was these viewing domes. I'm a bit disappointed that we don't get longer ones. I would have liked walking tunnels that are compatible with the underwater, that don't require you to glitch the game. Yes, I'm fully aware that there are techniques to do it, and that they have existed in the game for a little while, but unfortunately they are glitchy and they don't necessarily work very well. So I believe that this is probably a good step in that direction, however. Just put a little underwater viewing dome. Now, they've explained quite well how they're going to do this. You're essentially going to have a gate that you attach onto your habitat barrier, much like you would have a guest gate. And your guests are going to be able to walk through that, and they will be teleported through quote-unquote a series of underground network tunnels that you don't build. They're imaginary, essentially, and the guests are going to teleport into these domes. And yes, you can have multiple domes within a habitat. So you can have underwater viewing domes, you can have above surface viewing domes. I assume that you cannot suspend these mid-air. That's just a guess I'm going to have. I don't think that we can do floating bubble domes, as cool as that would be, but we can already construct something akin to that already in the game. So here we see them with the lemurs. What strikes me is this foliage down here. Now, I don't think that this is the fern that they were talking about, but I also don't think that we have anything like this in game. Or certainly if we do, I have not seen it. Of course, granted, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to ground clutter. So it's entirely possible that this item, this foliage right through here, is part of a free update that's coming along. Now, they haven't said anything about that, so I'm going to say that that's wild speculation and that we won't know until the 19th comes around. Lastly, for quality of life, you know how I've been bitching and complaining about the fact that the Bornean orangutans don't brachiate? Well, now they brachiate. And everybody clapped and rejoiced, because my goodness, why didn't you do this months earlier? But anyway, setting aside my frustrations, we now have a complete rework, I'm sure, of the model so that they can now brachiate. They have all of the appropriate behaviors. And it looks like they will be able to brachiate using the 1 meter, 2 meter, and 6 meter climbable logs, which is fascinating. I know that they've been reworking those parts. I've seen little bits and pieces of it where they just work differently now. It's interesting to see that this is the direction that they're going to take, and thank goodness, because quite frankly, it's amazing that the Bornean orangutans can fit on that little itty-bitty enrichment beam as it is right now. Lastly, if you wanted more color morphs for the king penguin from the aquatic pack, you are in luck. You are now getting melanistic, leucistic, brown, and xanthic. So, that will be something for you. And lastly, again, most interesting for me, we are getting a new temperate Oceania biome for us to enjoy on all modes, which I suspect is going to be this. I suspect that this is probably our temperate map for Oceania, and that we will probably be able to play with portions of this, and that this will simply just be the replacement map. Either that, or they're going to have something akin to this, and then use this background over here. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully they've been listening to our desire to have fully island areas, and we don't have to do the whole... There's a method right now with the, there is a method to do it with the diorama system. The community has uploaded a map that is just 100% all water stretched to the border, so if you wanted to do a pure island thing, that would be how you do it. I recommend looking for that on the Steam Workshop. It'll be under your dioramas. However, for now, let's go ahead and get to the announcement trailer, because it's got a little bit more interest for us than just the images. So here we get some close-ups of the new build pieces. We have these, I call them shields. They're probably meant to be surfboards. We have something akin to this in the Australia pack, but of course they're decorated for Australia. They don't have these wonderful patterns. Next we get a look at the roofs. We can see that they're probably going to be a bit thick. We can see the ribbing on the inside. Very good. Some flat pieces, some curved pieces. All of these wooden shapes are going to be brand new. So already in the first few seconds we have something new and interesting to look at, which I appreciate. It also appears that we're getting nets, which I'm sure that people will put to a lot of use, considering how useful nets are in managing animals. We have the kiwi running across screen. He looks fantastic, no complaints. Here we have this sort of cliffside overview. What stands out to me first are these boats. It looks like we're getting a brand new boat into the game. Personal boat. It'll go along with the East Asian and the gondola, I'm sure. I like these little sails. I think that that's a wonderful addition. We really don't have anything with a sail in-game. I am curious whether or not these sails are going to be part of the structure, or if they're going to be separate, so that way we can actually change the directions of the sails, and potentially use them in other ways. Again, we have these fantastic roof shapes. I suspect that if this were going to be on a grid, that this would probably be our 4 meter tall curved. That is what appears to be going on here. And then we have the sort of, I'm not entirely sure what you call this. This could be a singular, unique piece that sort of goes on the edge as a shape. Or these could be separate pieces that we sort of layer outward. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. We have over here these super tall roofs. These are very akin to the Twilight packs, like 6 or 8 meter tall roof. So it appears that we're going to be getting more of those. Again, we see the sort of Polynesian shape, or not Polynesian, Indonesian shape. We have these nice thick wooden beams, which I am actually pretty excited for. I always need more wood. I don't know why. Wood is like my go-to building material, but it's so versatile, you know. And just mostly showing off a lot of the new palms, of course. This looks new and interesting. Obviously, we have the Tiki Man. We have this creative use of wood to make a boardwalk, which I always love to see, but I never have the patience to do. Here we have another shot. This appears to be our new statue, presumably for the Tasmanian Devil. So it will fit right along with a style that's been introduced in the Twilight and the Indonesian packs, where we have these sort of ultra stylized statues. I have to admit, I do love these. I like having more statuary in the game, and I like having statuary that it just seems sort of wild out of the blue and fits with the culture that we are working with. These walls down here, these appear to be flexi-color stone, so it appears that we're getting yet another texture of cobblestone unless they are using the European pack, which it doesn't appear that we are. We get more pictures of the black volcanic stone. And again, I would love for these to be flexi-color, but I suspect that they are probably just going to be black. We get more looks at the build pieces. I'm trying to look around in here to see if we can find any animals, and it appears that right here we have a Tasmanian Devil. He's conveniently placed so far away that you can't actually see him. So, shame about that. These are either the new ferns that they were talking about, those silverleaf ferns, or they are palm trees sunk into the ground, and I'm not willing to say definitively which one it is. Embark on a new journey to Oceania. We have this statue over here. This is probably the quokka. And then we have this statue over here, which I'm not 100% on what animal that's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be. There's really not a lot to say in this image. We get more looks at those build pieces. We have this wonderful curve on this tree. There's a lot of palm trees in here that I'm not recognizing. There's some that I do, and there's a lot that I don't. And it's entirely possible that I'm just not very familiar with the palm trees that we do have in game, because if I can help it, I don't like to relive my memories of palm trees in Florida. If we rewind just a touch, maybe, if the game will let us. There we go. So here's our first shot of the little blue penguin. Looks perfect, no notes. It's adorable. He's got that kind of old man on the move look. Everything about this is right. These kelp trees, this already exists in the game. There's one of these otter water plants, and they've just simply stacked them on top of each other to make these kelp forests, which I think is a very creative use. I would not have thought to do that. Here we get the fruit bat. There he is, right there. Looks perfect. Sorry, this is going to be the flying fox, not the fruit bat. Although I suppose you could use fruit bats. It would be appropriate. So we're going to get another flying fox. I don't have a lot of information to say about those right now. It does look like they've used all the standard pieces and then they've decorated it up, which of course is one of the benefits of using the larger enclosures. I noticed that they have a bit more of a... Here's another one over here. They have a lot more blue. They have this nice little skull sort of face pattern on them. I think they look good. I like them. We get a better look at these different volcanic rock pieces, and this log confirms for me right here that these are going to be a base game set, which is recolored black. It's entirely possible that they took the texturing of the red rock and they've simply color shifted it to the black. I don't know yet. We'll get more information on that. If you're curious why I'm so enthralled by the fact that we're getting more rocks, it's because I spend so much of my day doing rock work, and I need more. I need more. This structure on this palm, no. This definitely doesn't exist in game right now. So I am definitely curious to see how much new foliage we are getting, and exactly what that's going to mean for us. It appears that the Kiwis are going to use the burrow, which is an interesting choice. I don't mind it. And there we go. September 19th. So that's basically what we have. And then we have another very long period of just showing us an end slate screen. Very short, cute announcement. Let's go ahead and look over this. So final thoughts. I don't have very many at this moment. Obviously, as I've said a million times before, the rocks are fantastic. The foliage is fantastic. The new build pieces, I'm a little hit and miss. I love all of the structural pieces that we're getting. I am not in love with thatch as a building material, just across the board. I don't think it looks very good. It feels like a health hazard to me. I'm just waiting for that stuff to go up in flames. Now granted, I might be a little bit scarred from the 2021 Cranog burning. Rest in peace, first Cranog. Thankfully, we're getting 2 new ones built on the opposite side of the loch in Scotland, so that'll be exciting. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Crannog. They're fascinating. And yes, I have built one. No, I'm not going to show it off right now. So, anyway, I'm not in love with the thatch roofs, but I'm sure I can learn to get over that. I am in love with the new boats. I'm in love with the new wood pieces. The animals are great. You know, I'm happy to have more oceanic animals. They always work out really well in Planet Zoo. They're always some of the best starting animals I find. The kangaroo, the wallaby, to a certain extent the koala. All of these are great for starting your very first franchise. So if you have the Australia pack, that's really the benefit that I get out of it, is that it makes it so much easier to start a new franchise zoo. So of course it's wonderful to have more animals representing this area. Do I wish that we'd gotten another pack? Admittedly, yes. I am fully aware that due to political circumstances, we are not going to get a Russia pack. And my disappointment is immeasurable, and it makes me even angrier at that nation. Which is a shame, because Russia has a lot of cool stuff going on for it. It's got a lot of cool history. Why did they have to do this dumb move? Setting aside my politics for a moment, I will say that one of my dreams has always been to rebuild the Kremlin, because the domes, just the domes. And I will say that that is one of the things that does interest me about this pack, is that we get all these delightful shapes out of the thatch that I can then use to, like, layer on domes. So I can't be too upset, but, you know, I will be using the thatch more for how it can support other build pieces, I think, more than I will be using it for what it is. And so I don't know how to take that, you know, whether or not it's a fun and interesting thing to do, or whether or not it's going to be a waste. I don't know yet, and we will find out soon. I will admit that I was hoping for more of a mountain pack. I was hoping for wolverines. Wolverines. I was hoping for yaks. Now, I know that the general sentiment in the community was that we were probably going to get an island pack, or we were going to get a petting zoo pack. Like, Mountains was in the discussion, but it was not earnestly in the discussion. I have been hoping for a Mexico pack since I first attempted to build a Mexico section in Highwater Pass. It is regrettable to me that we are not getting a Mexico pack right now, you know? It is very difficult to build things in that country, and it's frustrating because right now what we're having to rely on is plaster and Indian pieces, and that is a insult and a disappointment. And quite frankly, I think that we need something from Mexico that's just dedicated to Mexico, you know? There's plenty of animals that we haven't gotten in game that would really flush it out, you know? We could be getting the American bobcat, we could get the coyote, you know? There's at least one tree kangaroo, I think. So all of these different animals that we could be getting, but we're not going to. And on some level, I do suspect that it's because they would have to program in an eagle, because how can you have a Mexico pack without literally the animal that helped to found the country? So anyway, I have rambled on enough. I hope that you all have enjoyed this overview, and when the pack comes out, that you enjoy the pack. Thank you and goodbye.